revealed how a 10-year-old homeless girl transformed a billionaire's jet with an amazing fix. Mia stood in the shadows of an alley, her heart racing as she rummaged through discarded tools forgotten by the world. The bustling city beyond the grimy street hummed with life, but here, it was just her and the hopes tucked within her tattered notebook, filled with dreams of jets and grand designs. The smell of stale bread from the shelter nearby, mixed with the distant roar of planes soaring above, reminders of a life that felt forever out of reach. As she listened to the dismissive laughter of a group of well-dressed men mocking Mr. Thornton's grounded jet, an unfamiliar resolve surged within her. "That jet's a piece of junk," one scoffed, another added, "too much money wasted on a failed toy." Mia felt their words pierce through her, igniting an anger she couldn't quite articulate. Did they not know how a broken piece of machinery could repair dreams? She hesitated at the edge of confidence. Was she foolish for wanting to speak up? A familiar fear tugged at her heart. What if they laughed at her? Yet, the idea of letting their contempt go unchallenged filled her with an urgency stronger than her apprehension. Before she could second-guess herself, Mia stepped forward, her worn sneakers crunching against the gravel. "Actually, if you check the stabilizers," she began, her voice trembling, but her mind racing with possibilities. The sneers on their faces told her she dared too much. "A kid like you wouldn't know anything about it," one man sneered, leaning back in his tailored suit. Mia's heart sank at their condescension, but something deeper, something defiant sparked within her. She wouldn't retreat into the shadows, not now. Mr. Thornton emerged then, his silhouette imposing against the sunlit sky. Her breath hitched at the sight of the infamous billionaire, whose jet was now the center of ridicule. He was visibly frustrated, the lines on his face deepening. When he heard her suggestions, he paused. Surprise flashed across his sharp features. Did he see past the grime and her unkempt hair? They worked side by side, her hands guiding tools over metal as he watched with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Every moment with him felt like a blend of nightmare and dream. She was out of place in his world of glass and wealth. But every time laughter bubbled from his elite friends, she felt each chuckle slice through her resolve. The stark difference in their worlds weighed heavily on her small shoulders. At a lavish dinner, dressed in borrowed clothes, still smelling of soap from the shelter, she tried to belong amongst flowing champagne and delicate pastries. When she shared her thoughts on aerodynamics, the room filled with silence and scrutinizing glances, like stones thrown in a smooth pond, each wave pushing her further from acceptance. Could she stand before them, still reeking of her past while trying to show them she was smart, that she had value? Mia's muscles tensed, clenching her hands in the fabric of her overalls. The whispers of disdain felt like chains dragging her down. Just as she considered retreating into herself, a sudden mechanical failure flushed through the party's liveliness, challenge crackling in the air. The jet needed repairs, and everyone turned to watch. Could she summon the courage to step forward one more time? The moment hung delicate in the air, her pulse echoing in her ears. Mia could sense the judgment, the expectations, and the weight of her own self-doubt. What if she failed? What if they saw her for just a homeless girl trying once more to be something greater? The tension ballooned, filling her with an aching awareness. The chance to prove herself was slipping away. Would this moment shape her future, or would she become just another lost dream in a world that overlooked the quiet and the broken? Mia's heart raced as she faced the moment, the intensity of the room swirling around her like a storm. She felt the weight of their gazes, some curious, others dismissive. For a fleeting second, she thought of retreating, of fading back into the shadows where her fears felt comfortable. Yet a flicker of determination ignited a fire inside her. "I can help," she blurted out, surprising herself as the words escaped her lips. The room fell into a deeper silence, every individual holding their breath for the inevitable ridicule to follow. Instead, she watched Mr. Thornton's expression shift. The skepticism gave way to consideration. He motioned for her to step closer. "All right, kid, show me what you've got," he said, his voice steady but with a hint of challenge. Mia swallowed hard, her throat dry as she approached the grounded jet. For a brief moment, she was overwhelmed by the enormity of the task before her. A machine worth millions, teetering on the edge of failure, and she was just a girl in worn-out clothes. "First, we need to check the main control panel," she directed, her voice stronger now, fueled by the whispers of encouragement her inner self provided. As she knelt beside the panel, her fingers brushed the cool metal with a familiarity that surprised her. This was her element, the scent of oil and metal mingled with the distant hum of engines. "Pray tell, what does a child like you know about this?" one of Mr. Thornton's friends finally said aloud, attempting to reclaim the atmosphere of superiority. Mia's heart dropped momentarily, but she refused to fall prey to doubt. "It was time to show them. More than you think," she replied, channeling her childhood dreams, mixed with the countless hours spent watching mechanics repair old planes at the airfields near the shelter. Each memory illuminated a path in her mind, revealing potential solutions buried under layers of insecurity. Her fingers worked deftly as she laid out a plan, each movement infused with the hope of a young girl who had battled loneliness and despair. The skeptical gaze of the billionaire's entourage shifted from ridicule to confusion as she confidently began checking components, explaining her reasoning with clarity she hadn't known she possessed. "And if the control circuits are misaligned, it could cause a catastrophic failure in flight," she continued, watching Mr. Thornton nod slowly, impressed by her insights. Each nod fueled her confidence, the momentous weight of disapproval slowly lifting. However, just as Mia began to feel buoyed by her abilities, doubt crept back in like a shadow. She felt their eyes still logiced with judgment, but slowly transitioning to something else, curiosity. The tension was palpable, and Mia could sense her defining moment drawing nearer, closer than it had ever been. "Can you really fix this?" came a voice from the back, one dripping with condescension, but now with an undercurrent of intrigue. Mia turned towards the jet, a renewed sense of purpose boiling within her. "I'm going to try," she stated firmly, her voice now a powerful instrument of will. She had to succeed, not just for herself, but to validate every scrap of hope she had clung to. The tools in her hands felt heavier than ever, as if they were forged from the weight of expectations. With a deep breath, she dove back into the intricacies of the control panel, her mind racing with calculations and solutions. Failure was a specter at her shoulder, but she pushed it aside, fueled by something new, a desire not to just be seen, but acknowledged, as luck would have it. She uncovered a small circuit that had blown, hidden and masked by the chaos of wires. Mia's heart leapt. This was it. Her instincts had led her right. Yet, she paused, the gravity of the moment weighing heavily on her. What if this was too risky? What if she ruined everything? Doubt wrestled fiercely within her. Should she pursue the fix or let someone else take over? The hands of time seemed to freeze as she contemplated her choice. In that electric moment of potential failure, her breaths quickened. Would she embrace the challenge ahead, or let the fear of failure dictate her destiny? The decision lay before her, and she took another deep breath, knowing soon the world would see her not as a homeless girl, but as an innovator with a chance to soar. Mia's fingers trembled as she hovered over the blown circuit, thoughts swirling like the wires before her. The specter of failure loomed large, whispering reminders of past disappointments. She had spent so many years in the margins, fighting to be seen, and now, in this moment, she held the key to both glory and ruin. The shadows of doubt threatened to pull her under, yet a spark flickered at her core, igniting her resolve. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, grounding her nerves in the rhythm of the chant. Each inhale filled her with determination, while each exhale let go of the suffocating weight of fear. The world surrounding her faded momentarily, the only sounds being the low hum of machinery and the distant murmurs of disbelief from the onlookers. With meticulous precision, she carefully reached for her tools, her mindset transforming from uncertainty to focus. Mia was not merely reacting, she was strategizing. She envisioned each step ahead as she delicately pried the damaged circuit free, mentally calculating the ramifications of her actions. The weight of expectations transformed from an anchor into a springboard. She was ready to launch herself into the unknown. As she replaced the circuit, she felt an unshakable conviction washing over her. The act was almost meditative, each twist and turn of her hands reminiscent of every moment she had spent learning and yearning. It was here, amid the metal and chaos, that she felt most at home, as if her entire life had been a preparation for this singular event. With each successful adjustment, she could see Mr. Thornton's eyebrows raise in cautious optimism. The others who had previously written her off as a mere child began to whisper among themselves, their voices tinged with curiosity instead of contempt. This change energized her. Each nod of approval, each flicker of intrigue, was as valuable as gold. However, that flickering doubt still danced at the periphery of her mind, taunting her with memories of failure. What if it doesn't work? It echoed, but she silenced it, forcing herself to confront the narrative she had wrought over years. Who was she to back down now? Who was she to allow fear to trump her newfound tenacity? Emboldened, she connected the circuit, her heart thrumming like a drum. The last screw tightened. She stepped back, assessing her handiwork. A deep breath filled her lungs as she turned to the assembled crowd, their faces hung in anxious anticipation. Mia approached the control panel again, fingers trembling slightly, every eye bearing into her. She hesitated only for a heartbeat as she reached for the main switch. This was the defining moment, the inflection point of her transformation from an overlooked girl to a force to be reckoned with. Here goes everything, she breathed, flicking the switch. For a moment, nothing happened, and her heart sank. But then, the jet roared to life, engines humming in readiness, lights illuminating the panel. The gasps of astonishment resonated through the room as Mr. Thornton's expression shifted from surprise to awe. The disparaging murmurs morphed into a cacophony of exclamation as he stepped forward, eyes locked on hers. "You actually did it," he said, the disbelief melting away, leaving admiration in its place in that moment of recognition. The spectrum of Mia's life began to crystallize. She wasn't just fixing a plane. She was catalyzing her own metamorphosis. Yet, as the adrenaline coursed through her, questions began to swirl anew. What did this victory mean for her future? Would she be able to sustain this momentum, or was this merely a fleeting moment of validation? The world outside the hangar beckoned ominously, filled with uncertainties and challenges she had yet to confront. Mia's gaze drifted toward the horizon beyond the hangar, the vast sky stretching infinitely ahead. The scent of engines mixed with resolve, twining within her to forge a path. She could feel a new chapter unfurling before her. It whispered promises of both challenge and opportunity. She knew the path wouldn't be without hardship, but in that moment, she was ready. The fear that had once paralyzed her now propelled her forward. As applause erupted around her, and Mr. Thornton stepped closer. The horizon glimmered with newfound possibilities. She could feel it thrumming with the pulse of adventure. Little did she know, though, that with success came unforeseen rivals who wouldn't be willing to acknowledge the girl who dared to defy. Mia was just beginning to write her story, and the next challenge was lurking just out of sight, waiting to confront her with a test that would demand even more than she had just given. As the echoes of admiration lulled, Mia felt a rush of exhilaration intertwining with a twinge of trepidation. The applause faded, but the weight of expectation remained, settling heavily on her shoulders. She could sense the shift in the atmosphere. A flickering candlelight of respect had replaced the shadows of dismissal. Yet, she had one lingering question. how to navigate the waters of newfound acceptance while safeguarding her hard-won progress. In the subsequent days, Mia's routine shifted. No longer merely a spectator in the workshop, she began to assume a more proactive role. With Mr. Thornton's passionate encouragement, she found herself included in strategic meetings, a voice among seasoned engineers. Each discussion presented an opportunity, yet also a minefield of challenges. The nature of change, it seemed, invited both possibility and resistance. Mia noticed the sidelong glances from some colleagues, those who had once laughed at her aspirations. They exchanged whispered conversations, shadows of doubt still lingering in their eyes. On one particular afternoon, as she successfully led the assessment of a new design flaw on the inspection board, she felt the sting of their disdain. "What does she know?" they said, loud enough for her to overhear. The doubt still whispered, but now she refused to let it curl into her spirit. She would forge ahead, shielded by determination. Yet the more she climbed, the clearer it became that the peak was fraught with unseen drop-offs. During a late evening at the hangar, Mia sat alone beneath the flickering lights, staring at blueprints. The expanse of her ambition felt daunting, and she questioned her own knowledge. In that contemplation, a little voice nagged at her. What if she was just a temporary fix for the company's ambitions? What if they turned on her the moment she stumbled? These thoughts haunted her, but instead of retreating, they became fuel. She began to immerse herself in every tutorial, every engineering journal she could find. She didn't just want to ride the wave of success. She aimed to own it. The process became her sanctuary, allowing her to transform fear into relentless curiosity. Each page turned, each diagram studied, was a brick in her fortress of capability. Mia soon became known for her persistence, tackling complex problems others avoided. Her routine shifted from merely addressing existing tasks to proposing innovative ideas, and with that shift, so did the response to her presence. Slowly, the whispers of doubt morphed into murmurs of respect. It was intoxicating, but still, an underlying anxiety nagged persistently. She wondered how resilient this respect would be should she falter as she so often feared. Then came a defining moment. During one of the quarterly reviews, Mr. Thornton commended her work before the entire team. He shared not just her successes, but also the immense potential he saw in her. As his praise flourished through the room, something shifted. With each word, Mia realized that she could no longer hide behind fear. She had to embrace the risk that came with opportunity. IT was exhilarating, yet terrifying. The disparity between her newfound confidence and the lingering doubt echoed in her mind. Could she maintain this momentum? Who would she become in the pursuit of excellence? The voices murmuring disbelief morphed as her achievements piled up, and yet, deep down, she understood that she had just begun to scrape the surface of her capabilities. The true test loomed on the horizon. New projects beckoned, more complex and unpredictable than before. Not even a week later, Mia found herself face-to-face with a seasoned adversary, a rival engineer known for his cutthroat approach and disdain for newcomers. He was already a titan in the industry, and now he was less than willing to see her shine. As she prepared to present her ideas at a cutting-edge team competition, he dismissed her presence with a sneer, a clear message that he would not go easy on her. Mia's heart raced at the thought of the confrontation that awaited her. The stakes were higher. The potential for both recognition and humiliation loomed larger than ever. The moment had come to face the fierce undertow of professional rivalry, and it would demand every ounce of resolve she had cultivated. The thrill coursed through her as she stood ready to confront this challenge head-on. But the question echoed in her mind. Would she be able to rise to meet the formidable foe that awaited, or would the tide of doubt once again threaten to pull her under? Mia stood at the precipice of uncertainty, her mind racing as she prepared for the tension-laden competition. The sprawling hangar echoed with the sounds of machinery and chatter, but her focus narrowed to the task at hand. She checked her notes, their paper edges rough against her fingertips, grounding her in that moment. Each equation scrawled on the page felt both like a testament to her hard-earned knowledge and a reminder of the chasm of insecurity she had yet to cross. Her rival, Victor Caldwell, loomed in the background, a palpable force of intimidation. His reputation as a cutthroat engineer was not without merit. Stories of his dismissive rivalry seasoned the office air. He rarely acknowledged the efforts of newcomers, believing experience was an insurmountable wall for those fresh in the field. As his icy gaze swept the room, Mia felt the electric charge of challenge that flickered between them. In that moment, she also sensed something deeper, an understanding that this confrontation could either define her career or serve as a defining defeat. In her heart, the roar of determination battled against a familiar whisper of doubt. Did she possess the ability to not just survive this competition, but to excel? She took a deep breath, focusing on the strategies forged through late nights and relentless study sessions. Each failure had transmuted her into a more adept engineer. Scrutiny had become a sharpened tool rather than a blunt weapon. Yet, a current of anxiety rushed through her as uncertainty swelled. Was that transformation enough? With her mind racing, she recalled the advice Mr. Thornton had offered amid her recent triumphs. Control the narrative, Mia. Use your story to carve your space. Confidence doesn't come from a title. It comes from owning your experience. The words flashed in her mind like a neon signal, imbuing her with a sense of purpose that she had steadily nurtured. As her turn to present approached, the ominous calm settled over the hangar. Mia surveyed the gathered audience of engineers, stakeholders, and other teams, all eyes glued to the presentations and shadows of hopes flickering behind each face. Removing the tension from her arms, she stepped to the front. Elevated stands defined this competition, and within that structure, Mia decided she would not merely pitch ideas, she would unveil a vision. Mia launched into her presentation, words escaping her with practiced precision. She demonstrated her proposed modifications to the jet design, articulating the benefits while addressing the inherent concerns that came with such changes. Each point was interlaced with reasoning, shaped by the lessons she had learned through observation and diligence. She captivated the crowd, not just with her technical knowledge, but with the narrative of her journey rooted in resilience. Among the skeptical faces, Mia could pinpoint the flickers of surprise in Victor's expression as he leaned forward, visibly shaken by her compelling arguments. The tides were shifting, and she could feel the momentum swell beneath her feet. Yet, just as she reached the climax of her pitch, Victor shot up from his seat, his glare like a lightning bolt. "You've ignored fundamental engineering principles," he barked, his voice cutting through the moment like a knife. "You're playing games. This isn't theoretical conjecture. You want to endure the test of reality." Mia's pulse quickened, but instead of crumbling, she steadied herself. How could she respond? Should she dismiss his provocations and risk appearing defensive, or should she engage him directly? The silence in the room felt electric as everyone awaited her response. She momentarily struggled, weighing her strategy against the magnitude of Victor's challenge. It was a critical moment, to stand firm and assert her credibility amidst an aggressive confrontation, or to retreat under the weight of his doubt. With fire kindling in her gut, Mia decided. Not only would she defend her position, but she would also harness the confrontation as a catalyst for deeper discussion. Her voice shook, slightly, not with fear, but with conviction as she prepared to counter his assertion, to not simply defend, but to assert her worth with clarity and confidence. The stakes had never felt higher, and as she met Victor's gaze, she recognized the defining choice she now faced: push forward or let fear dictate her fate. She could feel the exhilaration stir again within her, a sacred blend of fear and bravery, igniting a relentless determination. In that charged moment, she opened her mouth, ready to confront the formidable opponent who had been dismissing her. Would her voice rise above the chaos, or would Victor's derision drown her ambitions? Mia knew that this encounter would likely shape not just her day, but potentially her entire career. The next few moments could decide everything she had fought for, and as she stepped closer to the battleground of ideas, the possibilities felt as boundless as her resolve. Mia steadied her breath, the world around her fading as she focused on the challenge Victor had laid before her. The room felt charged, like a taut wire ready to snap, and she had a decision to make, a split-second choice to stand or to submit. "Victor," she began, her voice faltering momentarily, but then strengthening as she found her footing. "I haven't ignored engineering principles. I've built upon them. Tradition doesn't shield us from innovation. Instead of dismissing these concepts, we must explore their evolution." A ripple of intrigue passed through the audience, their eyes narrowing as they turned toward Victor. Mia could see the flickers of rebellion in some, a hesitance to accept his rigidity. That realization buoyed her, transforming the fear in her gut into a wave of resolve. Victor's arrogance flickered, but he quickly masked his discomfort. "Evolution still requires accountability, Mia. Theoretical changes can lead to catastrophic failures if not thoroughly vetted." She sensed his determination to reassert control, and instinctively, her brain calculated rapidly. "True," she said, "but the real question is, do we create while shackling ourselves with fear, or do we allow inspiration to flourish within the structural framework?" Those words hung in the air, and Mia felt a collective shift from the onlookers. Many leaned in, intrigued by her challenge, while others squared their shoulders, prepared for a dive into rigorous debate. Victor opened his mouth to counter, but Mia pressed on, a new fire igniting within her. Each design has its imperfections, even our best innovations. They stem from the very experiences that challenge us, failures we learn from. My approach integrates those lessons to optimize performance. Isn't that the hallmark of progress? As she spoke, the rhythm of her thoughts began to synchronize with her body language. She animatedly gestured at her diagrams, infusing the designs with passion. The revisions I proposed address not only aerodynamic efficiency, but also enhance the safety protocols. Can we afford to lag in a sector driven by creativity? I say we cannot. The crowd erupted with low murmurs, and for the first time, Mia garnered empathy from those who had initially doubted her. She could feel the swell of confidence rising like a tide, carrying her forward. The snare of anxiety loosened its grip, replaced by a clarity that illuminated her intentions. Victor's brow tightened at her words. All eloquence aside, bold words and well-kept theories don't measure application. If the plane cannot withstand the rigor of testing, we could be risking lives, he retorted, his voice husky with the weight of authority. Mia stood firm. "I do understand the risks involved better than some might assume. Every design carries the potential for danger, yet it also presents opportunities for ingenious advances. I'm not asking for blind faith. I'm advocating for calculated courage." There was the key to her foundational ethos, a reflection of who she was as both an engineer and an individual. If she wanted this moment to resonate, she had to own it fully, without concession or submission. The audience now seemed divided, some nodding in agreement, others leaning back, wary of her fervor. Victor's piercing glare held her steady, but she could see the cracks forming in his fortress, uncertainty creeping into his stance. "Let us take this one step further," Mia proposed, abruptly aware of her own audacity, but recognizing that this was a pivotal opportunity. "How about a side-by-side evaluation? A test run of sorts? Allow the data to speak for itself." Victor hesitated now, something flickering behind his icy facade. Perhaps he didn't expect her to push this far. Perhaps he thought her too inexperienced to challenge and negotiate on equal terms. Mia locked eyes with him. She cordially invited the confrontation that she had once dreaded. "If you believe in your stance, stand beside me and let our designs be tested fairly. Let us see which vision perseveres in the face of reality." The room held its breath. Victor remained, silent, calculating. Whatever his next move would be, Mia knew the potential stakes. This wasn't just about her design. It was about her identity in a world where being seen and heard felt like a constant uphill battle. In this moment, she seized her narrative. But would her audacity pay off, or would Victor's experience outmaneuver her vision? With hearts pounding and minds racing, the air thickened with anticipation. Mia realized that her ultimate test had only just begun, and she was prepared to advocate for the voice she had just begun to wield. The future was becoming clearer, yet filled with uncertainty, a raw dichotomy of ambition and fear, waiting for the next critical moment that would define her destiny. The silence in the room stretched as Victor weighed her proposal. Mia's heart raced, every breath a testament to the gravity of her challenge. She had just crafted not only an opportunity for her design to be validated, but also a chance to elevate her place in this industry, one that had often felt like a rigid, male-dominated fortress. Very well, Victor finally intoned, his voice carefully measured. A side-by-side evaluation it is. But don't think for a moment that this indicates weakness on my part. We will adhere strictly to empirical standards. A low murmur rippled through the crowd, some inspired and others still skeptical. Mia felt a jolt of triumph mixed with trepidation. The stakes were high, and failure loomed just as closely as success. She now had to ensure her proposal stood the test of rigorous examination. But the prospect of having her design evaluated alongside Victor's dread-laden designs was simultaneously exhilarating and petrifying. As the audience's murmurs subsided, Mia became acutely aware of their gazes, the anticipation mixed with curiosity. She needed to maintain this momentum. Thank you, Victor. I appreciate the opportunity. The best ideas are forged in the crucible of competition. She turned towards her diagrams, the ink still fresh in her mind. With renewed fervor, she began to visualize every malfunction, every potential catastrophe Victor made present. Would it be technical failures or catastrophic malfunctions? Each thought required a strategy, a defense built not only on statistics, but on the subtleties of design philosophy she had embraced. Over the next few days, Mia poured her efforts into fortifying her design. She dove deeper into simulations, scrutinized every parameter of aerodynamics, and pored over safety protocols until they shimmered with potential. Each sprint through the data felt crucial, transforming her workspace into a battleground of ideas and computation. The numbers danced before her, revealing both flaws to mend and strengths to maximize. Yet, amidst her preparation, doubts nagged at the edges of her resolve. What if her innovations weren't enough to sway the skeptics? Victor would undoubtedly exploit any vulnerability, using her design's imperfections as ammunition. It was a relentless cycle of questioning that drove her to the brink, yet she pressed on. She had to remind herself that her vision was not merely a whim, it was a profound insight into the future of engineering. The night before the evaluation, she lay awake, wrestling with her thoughts. Would she fold under pressure? Would her passion burn brightly enough to inspire others to reconsider the familiar paradigms? The heaviness of responsibility bore down on her, but she grasped for the well of determination within. What matters is the integrity of my design, she whispered to herself, a mantra against her fear. She pictured the engineers and future leaders who could benefit from progress if only they recognized its potential. Her commitment to challenge the status quo drove her forward, forging her resolve into an iron will. She prepared her notes for the morning. A sense of clarity washed over her. This wasn't just about proving Victor wrong. This was about advocating for an engineering philosophy that resonated with her core beliefs, ensuring that the power of creativity and innovation would not be stifled by fear. Mia entered the evaluation space the next morning, her heart thrumming with dual beats of excitement and anxiety. The room felt heavier now, filled with the weight of her ambitions and Victor's looming presence. She could see the familiar faces of colleagues, each a combination of support and skepticism. "Are you ready?" someone questioned, and Mia nodded, steadying herself for the challenge ahead. The moment had come, her opportunity to shine or falter shining brightly in front of her. All of her preparation, her innovations, and her resolve led to this pivotal point. Would this be the turning point in her journey, or would it signify the hard lessons of a defeat she was striving to avoid? As the evaluations commenced, Mia realized she was not merely fighting for recognition in an austere industry. She was engaged in a defining battle to challenge a rigid mindset and, in doing so, embrace the fullness of her identity as an engineer. But would it be enough to shift the tide from Victor's grasp? As data began to unfurl in front of her, the answer loomed on the edge of her anticipation. Mia steadied herself as Victor began to present his design. Each slide that flickered on the screen displayed his meticulous attention to detail, a methodical approach that had earned him respect, even admiration, among the crowd. Mia felt the weight of the comparisons piling on her shoulders. The metrics and charts looked flawless, yet as she studied them, a seed of defiance grew within her. Victor's data may shine, but lacked the personal touch, the intuition that drove her creations. With each passing moment, the group seemed captivated by Victor's assertiveness. It was not merely about presenting facts. It was about commanding the room, displaying dominance without saying a word. He had mastered the art of persuasion, and Mia could feel the contours of her uncertainty sharpening into a blade of resolve. She wouldn't allow herself to diminish in comparison. Her design was not only relevant, but revolutionary. Finally, the time came for Mia to reveal her concept. Standing at the front, she glanced briefly at her notes, then looked up to face the audience, channeling her adrenaline into clarity. What I propose is not simply a design, but a paradigm shift, she began, her voice firm as she projected confidence amidst her nerves. While Victor's design clearly prioritizes traditional efficacy, we can achieve a better balance of performance, creativity, and safety. The murmurs of intrigue rippled through the crowd as she spoke, the initial skepticism beginning to thaw. She illuminated key features, showing how her approach could be more intuitive, less risky. Forming her narrative around the potential for human-centered engineering, she highlighted accessibility, sustainability, and innovation. There was vigor in her words now. She was drawing from the well of her convictions. Yet, as she continued, a lurking fear crept back in. What if the flaws in her design were magnified under scrutiny? Each assertion she made was powerful, but also a risk. They could easily be the key to her elevation or the catalyst for her downfall. Victor's gaze was merely an eagle tracking its prey. She needed to ensure every statement was fortified. As she concluded her presentation, Mia's chest tightened with anticipation. My design is a product of resilience and a commitment to challenge what we accept as normal, she declared, fully embracing the moment. The cacophony of thoughts spilling into her mind ceased as she observed genuine intrigue igniting among the audience. Victor leaned forward, eyes narrowed, the corner of his mouth twitching in what looked like a smirk. It seems you've overlooked a few critical parameters, Mia, he interjected coolly, his voice slicing through her triumph like a cold wind. Are you prepared to defend your claims against empirical scrutiny? Her heart raced again, but this time with a new sense of purpose. Watching as Victor dissected her ideas, Mia felt the steel of her resolve harden. She would not flinch. Yes, she replied, her tone unwavering. I've studied potential vulnerabilities in your analysis, which is why I'm confident my design presents alternative solutions that haven't been explored. The atmosphere within the room shifted, tension thickening like fog. Colleagues exchanged glances. Some wore expressions of concern, while others seemed inspired. Mia could sense their need for her to succeed, an energy she could harness. With Victor poised to challenge her, a chance for confrontation loomed directly ahead. It wasn't mere rivalry. It was a pivotal moment that could cement her standing in the engineering world. To address Victor was to confront the very barriers she had resented throughout her career. Let us examine the data together, she proposed, heart pounding, but determination surging. Show me your findings, and I will illustrate how we can evolve the industry beyond its current limitations." The room held its breath. In that immediate silence, she felt her own fear mirror back at her, but alongside it, a fierce sense of belonging began to take root. This was not just about winning a debate or proving herself. It was an opportunity to ignite change, and she was ready to claim her space. Would her resolve under this scrutiny hold? As Victor prepared to unveil what he considered undeniable flaws in her design, Mia braced for the ultimate test of her conviction. Mia took a deep breath as Victor clicked to the next slide, revealing a complex graph that illustrated the weaknesses in her approach, or so he claimed. In that moment, she felt exposed, like a tightrope walker without a safety net, but an invigorating rush accompanied her vulnerability. This was not merely about defending her design. It was about showcasing her vision for the future, refusing to be relegated to shadows. Let us begin with the accessibility metrics, Victor stated matter-of-factly, his tone dripping with condescension. You claim your design improves accessibility for all users, yet your data suggests that it only serves a fraction of the demographic. His fingers danced over the keyboard, calling forth further analysis like a magician revealing secrets behind the curtain. Mia's heart pounded in her ears as she recognized the discrepancies hidden in his logic, a trap set to ensnare her confidence. That's because the data doesn't take into account the intended adjustments over 5 iterations, she countered, summoning courage from a deep well within herself. This design is meant to be adaptive, evolving in response to user feedback, rather than remaining static. Confident murmurs rippled through the audience, like waves pushing against the shore, and she seized that momentum. Victor's smirk faltered slightly, and she pressed on, bolstered by the shifting tides. Design is inherently dynamic. It's a conversation with users, not a ledger of absolutes. But Victor wasn't finished. And yet, without fixed parameters, how can you ensure safety? Engineering is about precision, Mia. His simplistic view clipped her wings, but she refused to allow his limited perspective to define her. Safety, she replied, her voice steady, recalling the faces of those who inspired her work, is not merely about metrics. It's about understanding context and experience. With radical earnestness, she elaborated on how she had merged safety innovations into her design, showing simulations that illustrated how it could adapt to unexpected conditions. Victor leaned back, his demeanor slick as oil, but she recognized a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. The silence in the room thickened again, but it was different this time. It was pregnant with possibility. She could feel the atmosphere shift, a collective breath held in anticipation. She continued, a revelation hit her. This wasn't just a fight for recognition or vindication. This was about burying the fear of inadequacy that had nagged at her for years. With every successful counter, she could see glimmers of respect and hope emerge on her colleagues' faces. They were no longer passive observers. They were invested in the journey she was forging. Here's the bottom line, she concluded, her heart racing with finality. What we need is not just a design that meets standards, but one that inspires a revolution in how we think about engineering and the role it plays in society. My proof isn't linear, it's holistic. She stepped back, her eyes locked with Victor S., a silent challenge hanging between them. The war was far from over. He was still a formidable opponent, but for the first time, she didn't feel like she was out her depth. She had gone beyond merely defending her ideas. She had declared the importance of a human narrative intertwined with technology. The clinking of chairs broke the tension as colleagues began to murmur amongst themselves, some nodding thoughtfully, others whispering questions that hinted at genuine curiosity rather than mere critique. But Victor was not finished yet. His next move could either expose her vulnerabilities or offer her an opportunity to solidify her vision further. As he reorganized his thoughts to prepare for the next round, Mia felt the momentum swirling around her. She had set the stage, but the climax was yet to come. In her heart, she knew there was a fine line between validation and rejection, and on that line, her future now rested. Would she manage to convince others of her vision, or would Victor's lingering shadow eclipse her light forever? As Victor prepared to launch his final rebuttal, Mia steeled herself. This was not just a battle of designs anymore. It was a confrontation of ideals, a turning point in her journey. Mia stood resolute, her heart thrumming with the rhythm of tenacity and anticipation. The final round of their evaluation buzzed in the air, a culmination of her journey from shadows to the bright light of recognition. Relying on the fear she had conquered, she reminded herself that this moment was carved not only from mere ambition, but from virtue and integrity. Victor's eyes narrowed at her, a fierce beast unwilling to yield. As he began his counter, Mia remained grounded in her space, aware that what transpired here extended far beyond their rivalry. This was about much more than just a project. It was about redefining the boundaries set upon young engineers by a field carved predominantly in traditional molds. She readied herself to confront the tightrope of confidence. She had traversed each footfall on that line, charged with risk, but unwavering in courage. "I must reiterate," Victor said, projecting his voice with a practiced authority that once rattled her, but no longer intimidated. "Mia, idealism isn't a substitute for empirical truth. Your safety metrics and adaptability theories are commendable ideals, but we operate in a brass-tacks world where precision is paramount." The skepticism in his tone dripped like venom. In a flash of clarity, Mia understood that Victor's critique was a mirror reflecting the doubts she had battled internally. She realized that this was her moment not just to defend, but to pivot the narrative from defense to creation. "Victor, precision is only as useful as the context in which we apply it," she stated confidently, channeling every inch of her growth. Understanding the human condition results in more than just technicalities. It creates a design capable of evolving with the user, adapting to real-life complexities that static numbers fail to capture. She gestured purposefully to her diagrams, the lifeblood of her ideas pulsing through her words, and electricity crackled in the atmosphere. Mia felt it sharpen everyone's focus. She could see her colleagues leaning in, hungry for the depth of conversation she was ushering in. It's not merely about meeting current standards, but challenging what those standards can become in light of the future we aim to create. My design isn't just about dodging failures, but about embracing lessons not merely in numbers, but in lives. Her voice resonated with passion, an unwavering declaration of her worth and vision. The tension in the room fractured as she finished, each pulse through the crowd signaling intrigue rather than mere skepticism. For the first time, she saw the shadows of doubt flicker in Victor's eyes, giving way to uncertainty. The confidence she had fought so hard to cultivate hardened into a crystalline clarity that now illuminated her path. "That may be all well and good, but how do you propose to back up your claims?" Victor pressed, yet she could sense his edge softened, a flicker of doubt entwined with his aggression. Mia took a breath, feeling the energy of the room ready to shift. "I advocate real tests." She was resolute. "We can begin by launching a controlled evaluation of my framework alongside yours. This isn't just about proving which design reigns supreme. It's a demonstration of how we can push engineering beyond its limitations and tune it to respond to humanity." With her statement, Mia opened the door to collective inquiry, a collaborative approach that welcomed dialogue over conflict. Victor stared, visibly restrained by her forwardness. "A testing track and data collection won't be easy. There are risks involved." Mia's eyes sparkled with the weight of her ambitions. "Risk is the crucible through which all creativity forges. Let us embrace it." In that moment, she witnessed a shift. The trickle of whispers began to swell into a tide of enthusiastic murmurs around the room. Colleagues who had once cast their shadows over her ideas now saw the brilliance simmering beneath her determination. Respect and admiration replaced the whispers of discord, marking her transition from the margins to the heart of innovation. the final verdict from. The management team was embraced with applause for Mia's insights and the value they recognized in her proposal. The evaluation sprang no longer as a battleground against Victor, but as a celebration of progressive engineering. It was a beautiful fusion of theory and practicality, echoing Mia's long-held desire to alter the very fabric of the industry. Later that evening, as she stood overlooking the skyline of the city, the weight of the day's achievements settled into her very bones. She had not only managed to claim a space among the ranks of esteemed engineers, but had also redefined what her identity could be: a voice for transformation, echoing for those who once felt invisible. With every step she took toward further achievements, completing new projects driven by her innovative spirit, she felt something shift within her: a solid confidence, born from embracing failures and seizing opportunities. Mia was ready not only to conquer challenges, but to inspire others to do the same, transforming the narrative from darkness to resilience, a story of profound personal growth reflected in her ascent as an established voice in the industry she loved. Now, as she took a deep breath, the whisper of hope transformed into the roar of potential. The world was her canvas, and Mia possessed all the colors needed to paint a future that inspired innovation, a future filled with promise, resilience, and unapologetic ambition. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the inspiration flowing. You must comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to see how dreams can truly transform through perseverance.